Hello and greetings to everyone. The grandkids are out at the library, so I'm getting a chance to create a video for you. This is going to be the next and only other video that I send out about Africa. I had hoped to get out 3, but I'm having too much fun playing with grandkids, so this is the longer version. On July 5th, I went early with a team of 5 others due to ticket prices and certain flights being full. We had to split our team up into 2 groups with 2 different airlines. I ended up flying out a day earlier than Debbie. On my team, I had a 15-year-old and one family with a 4 and a 6-year-old. This family of our 4 had been turned down by other mission groups and asked if they could come with us, so we gladly accepted them. We left a day early so the kids could adjust to jet lag. I've got to tell you about this family. They were incredible. I didn't hear one cry or one whine from either of the kids the entire trip. They were so well behaved and mature beyond their years, and the greatest lesson about Christianity was learned from them. Wherever they went, they made friends with the African children. It didn't matter that they couldn't speak their same language or not. They played with them nonetheless and accepted them just as they were. How we all need to learn that lesson. It was a joy having this family on the team. On the first full day that I was there, when Debbie was bringing the rest of the team, I had a husband and his wife from Kenya come and meet with me. They had heard about me through a friend. They ran a ministry in the inner city slums. They reached out to the kids through soccer and chess. It was a great ministry, but they were excited to see what they could learn from us. I had Ronnie and Nemo with me there as well, so we all met together. Since they minister to about a couple of 100 girls, we wanted to team up with them in the area of delivering dignity, while also training them theologically. In fact, this past week, since being home, Ronnie and Denka have been with them and begun the training theologically. They loved it and are beginning to live for the glory of God in a fresh new way. After they left, I recorded Nemo on a green screen to see if she would be a good fit for the nationwide Delivering Dignity video that we are creating. We are still in the process of seeing if she is a good fit, and this would be the one that we'll use. That night, the rest of the team arrived at around midnight. The next day, we all gathered, had breakfast, and then took a bus way down south to where Debbie does all of her training of the Maasai women. We picked up some Kenyan co-workers along the way. Ronnie and Denka were there along with their son MJ, as well as a young woman named Gracie. The trip took about 4 hours. The next day was Sunday. We went to a church in Imotoroki, one of Nemo's favorite Maasai churches. I loved this church because some of the men sold their cows to pay for the building of the church and then sold more cows to help build a school. We ended up buying for the school desks and chairs and anything else they needed. Debbie enjoyed teaching the Lord's Prayer to them in sign language. The service went great, and then we had lunch. What you're seeing here is a typical lunch. After church, Debbie taught the women and I taught the men. On Monday, we began our journey back to Nairobi. On the way, we stopped off to see a typical market in the village where Debbie trains women. I love how this woman encouraged her goat to go in the direction she wanted it to go. We then went to a school and did a Delivering Dignity project. The school had about 600 students. They poured out of their classrooms full of excitement because this was an unexpected visit. The road to the original school that we were supposed to go to had too many potholes and the bus wouldn't be able to make it. Debbie and Nemo took the young women and David and I took the young men. One of the young ladies on our team, a 20-year-old who had just graduated from college and is going to medical school in the fall, taught the young girls exactly what a menstrual cycle is and what it is for. Along with her, each person got to share a bit of their own story. The girls were extremely grateful to get the Delivering Dignity kits. For some of them, this was a $10 product that would change the rest of their lives. King David and I took the young men. He taught them on the sanctity of life, explaining how a child develops inside the womb and how we shouldn't kill those children. We had one of the strongest young men came up and hold a 15-pound rock to let him know what his mother went through in carrying him. I also got to teach on Debbie being my best friend as a spouse, and they were shocked that we had been married for 37 years. I also taught them about 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10, all Christians are going to be judged for how they lived their lives. This tied in perfectly with the sanctity of life. As usual, David had them split up into groups, forming circles, and then playing hot potato. The one who had the potato last when the music stopped was to share with the rest of the group what they had learned. On Tuesday, we went into the inner city slum area. There we worked with men, women, and children. Debbie took the women and taught them the 6-question Bible study method. Write me if you want more information on that study. Half of the team worked with the kids. They did an incredible job in such a small area. And I went upstairs to the pastor's office and trained around 10 men along with King David. On Wednesday, our team split up. I took 5 others and we went into King David's area in a place called Magadi. It was about a 4-hour trip. Some of the churches we went to had no road. You had to simply know how to get there. And as was typical, goats, sheep, and cows could be found crossing the road right in front of your car. On the way down to that area, we stopped off at a small school that David had started. It was only 2 rooms, but the kids were learning, and I was impressed that they were memorizing scripture as well.
John 3:16, for God so loved the world, that he gave his only Son, and
whoever believe in him shall not perish, but have eternal life.
Amen. The teachers here get about $70 a month as a salary. David also has a heart for the physically and mentally handicapped. He has a vision for getting this one room set up for them.
We are anticipating to start with 20 disabled kids, but the one who are disabled in parts of the legs and the lower limbs, those who can write, and those also who are mentally okay. Mentally is okay. It's only the legs that are not functioning. So that we will be able to manage as we continue getting specific teachers who are trained for those who are like mentally ill, those who are blind, and those who are also deaf. So we are going slowly by slowly on having them.
And this would be the male dorm room?
Yes, this will be the male dorm. We'll have to paint it, and then on this other side, you can see there's a door here for the matron to be able to check. Then we'll have girls who are staying in this area because the matron sleeps in this is our place. The matron sleeps in this room, so she's able to know what is happening to the girls, and also to come all around to the boys' dormitory, who will be sleeping here. If you can see, look at this, we can only be able to host not more than 8 disabled kids. And now that we are having a plan of having around 20 to start with, it means that we'll have to get a new place to go and construct the school for the disabled.
So this is a temporary.
This is a temporary, and we are renting it. It's not for free. It is not ours. We are renting it.
And how much to fix it up, approximately in US dollars?
Could be $1,000 could fix small things.
And then eventually, you want to build a new school.
Eventually, we want to build a new school on our ground that we have been given. It will cost around $50 if we are
$50,000.
$50,000 if we are using the iron sheet, and $70,000 if we are using the bricks.
We finally made it to one of the churches where we had a warm greeting by the women. They gave us bracelets and beads as a welcoming gift. The people have been so grateful to David for all that he has done for them that they gave him property to build his own manada. A manada is something similar to a compound. David has built multiple rooms on it, and that's where we stayed for the night. This was one of the rooms.
How this one has considered you a little bit.
Yeah, I can stand up in this one.
Yeah.
Good. This is a duplex.
Yes. How one can sleep there.
Are you guys in the kitchen or the living room?
Here's the kitchen. Now the living room is here.
A live goat was brought, but it ended up being our dinner that night. The cook did a magnificent job in making our meals. That night it was so dark that one of the 22-year-old girls taught me how to use my iPhone and take pictures of the stars that came out amazingly well. On this day, Debbie's team went to feed the poor. Unfortunately, Debbie was sick and stayed home that day, but some of the women commented on how they loved praying for and with the widows in the area where they worked. The next day, we had a great breakfast thanks to the same chef who also slept where we were. We then went to our second church and handed out mattresses and blankets and solar-powered lights. Here is David talking about how the lights could be used as a way of security for the girls.
Thank you. And this you can use in two ways. This one you can light this, and this you put outside near the door, so that when the dashi is coming, dashi is the age group that is raping girls.
One of the saddest moments was meeting this young woman because she had no delivering dignity kit available to her years ago when she was a young girl. She was married off at 12 years of age to a 70-year-old man. He died 5 years later, leaving her to be a widow at 17. Please do note, all of the beadwork around her neck was done by her own hands. They make their own jewelry. As a widow, she is not able to remarry and has kids and has to raise the kids by herself. What's even worse is that in her culture, any man can just go and sleep with her if he wants to. In their culture, she has no say in it. She has to yield to the man. She now has 6 children and is approximately 32 years of age. While we were in Magadi, Debby got better, and the rest of her team went out and did a Delivering Dignity at a school for girls in the slum area. Gracie started them off with a Swahili song that they all knew. Then the team went into explaining the ins and outs of a young woman's menstruation and then handed out the Delivering Dignity kits. Once again, a small $10 product will change the entire future of these girls, allowing them to stay in school and finish their education. And they know it. Look at the joy on their faces. On day 8, the entire team was reunited. We then went to Zion Baptist Church, where Pastor Moses preaches. The church is quite nice since it was financed by Koreans. When we first arrived, hardly anyone was there, so many of the team started playing with the kids. About after an hour, we regrouped. Debby did the Lord's Prayer in the sign language with our team, and then I started teaching the differences between being a child of God and being a disciple of Christ. After another typical lunch, more people had shown up. Debby had about 40 women, and I trained around 15 men. At the end of the day, we went back to the hotel, 15 minutes down the road, and ate dinner.
A typical dinner in Namanga with MG23.
On Saturday, we went to an orphanage run by the Lutherans. We started the day off by singing with them and then playing with them. Once again, we had a typical lunch, and I was very proud of our family dad taking the initiative to serve those who had been serving our team and the kids. After lunch, we gave out clothing to the children. At the end of the time, the kids showed us some of what they were learning as they recited the Apostles' Creed and the Lord's Prayer. I was extremely impressed. Sunday morning, I preached at Zion Baptist Church. My text was on Matthew 24, verse 14. Jesus isn't going to come back until all tribes have been reached. I then talked about Matthew 28, 18 to 20. And they saw that we were to make disciples of all those tribes, of all nations. I then, once again, helped them to see the difference between merely being a child of God and being a disciple of Christ. I challenged them each to get 2 disciples before we came back in a year. This had a huge impact on them all. After another typical lunch, we split the men and the women and the youth up. Debby taught the women on how to make disciples. I taught the men on the same thing. Our other team worked with the youth and taught them on the basics of walking with God. At the end of the men's meeting, I asked each man, "What did you learn?" So many men commented on the fact that they didn't know that there was a difference between being a child of God and a disciple of Christ. And they all said they wanted to be disciples and make disciples. That evening, we drove home to Nairobi. The next morning, the entire team got up early and went on a safari. They got to see lions up close. One woman dropped her camera out of the window with lions about 10 yards away.
Now get back in and then we
I did not go on the safari, but stayed behind and shot another video of Denka for the Delivering Dignity nationwide campaign. After a nice lunch and a tourist shopping, they came home. And for the last 50 yards to the hotel, they got on top of the bus and rode home. They loved it. In the evening, we all got together and had our appreciation time. Each person had to say something nice about each other person on the team. It took about 2 hours and was a very uplifting time for everyone. Fred, our hotel host and friend, also had a cake made for us all to share. And at the end, he pulled Debby aside and said, "Do all American teams do this?" Debby assured them that not all teams did do this appreciation time. After that, we got all of our luggage, got on the bus, and went back to the airport to fly out. All in all, it was a wonderful trip. Some have even asked for the dates for next year so they can start lining up their vacations in advance. Thanks for all of your prayers and fasting. They were heard by God, and I believe God was and is still smiling.